Greetings. Today we're going to be looking at text editors in Linux. And as you can see, we are looking at my Mac OS terminal. What we're going to be doing today is taking a little bit more in-depth look at some of the things that are possible with terminal text editors, which I've already got set up and they're running perfectly fine on my Mac. So I didn't see a whole lot of point in transferring the exact same config files over to a Linux VM to record through that. So we're just going to look at it here. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to rehash Nano, which Nano is the most basic of the text editors. It's very simple to use and it works out really effectively. So let's go into my desktop, and then I'm just simply going to type in Nano and whatever I want the file to be. So this is where you would open an existing file, or in this case we're going to be creating a new file. And so this is Nano. It's a very simple deal, works out really well. Not a whole lot of anything quirky or weird or interesting to deal with. As you can see, the options you have are at the bottom, so we can get help. The caret in this case is the control. So you would press Control G, and we're now looking at the help. Nano is an improved version of the Pico text editor. And one thing about text editors is unless you specifically enable it, they do not allow for the mouse to do anything. That's going to become very important when we're looking at Vehm here in a second. So with Nano, now that we've created the file that we wanted to, and we're done using that, we're done editing this particular file, I'm simply going to do Control X. And here you get an option to save modified buffer. So these edits that we make get stored in a buffer, which we'll see in a minute. And so I just press Y for yes. And this is the point where I could change the name. So I want to change it to SH. Not that that really makes anything or does anything useful, because this file is absolutely worthless. And then it's asking me here if I want to save it under a different name, and I do because I changed it. So now I'm going to ls, and we see that there is a test.sh. There is no original test.txt, specifically because I created this file under the .txt name, but I didn't save it under the .txt name. So let's take a look at that real quick. With Vehm, I have plugins and different things that allow it to have additional capabilities. And one of those is to show me the file structure that a file is in. So all I do is a key combination, and there we go. If I so chose, I could go up a directory, and then here I'm in my users/Blake folder, and now I can go through anywhere that I want to. So let's say I wanted to go into my documents. I could look at brew scripts, and I could open that. So I opened the brewlist.txt in Vehm through a plugin called NerdTree that I have installed in my Vehm through my Vehm RC. So one of the things with Linux, again, is that everything is a file. Your configuration settings are also a file. which this is not unique to Unix. It just so happens to be a very Unixy way of doing things. So in Windows, that same configuration in a file would be called a .ini file, which became such a hassle for Windows users to deal with. They eventually ended creating the Windows registry, which effectively is a conglomerate of INI files that is easier in some respects to interface with and to deal with. So let's go back to the original test file that I had created in my desktop. And so see here, you see a test.sh.swp. That is a swap file, and basically that is a temporary file. So everything as I type it in is automatically saved into that hidden. That's why the period is in front of test. So in Unix, a period in front of a file makes it hidden. This also works with folders. And all that simply means is that it's not shown to your standard user inside of your File Explorer GUI. It also means that if you just do a standard ls instead of ls-a or -all, then you won't see hidden files or folders. It just kind of makes it a little nifty. So here we're going to go back into the original, because I never made edits, there's nothing really to do here. But because it's now a .sh file, I want this to actually run something. So I'm going to go into insert mode by pressing I. And now I can type just as if it was any other text editor. And we'll get into scripting later, but all I want this to do for right now is something simple. Or actually, let's do this. Echo hello world. The wonderful hello world. Now, I'm in insert mode, and you can see that because it says insert down at the bottom. I'm going to press escape, which puts me out of insert mode. And so now I can go through and I can move the cursor, and there are other commands. So there are 3 different modes in Vehm. The only 2 that are terribly important when you're first learning it is insert and normal. Currently I am in normal mode, so I can move through it. I can do key combinations to perform various tasks, and I can press I and get back into insert mode, which, as you can see, insert shows up at the bottom. Now, when I'm in normal mode, as I am back in again, there are a number of different commands that you can run into, and you can also type. So you see a purple line that says test.sh. That is the file that I'm currently in. It's what I'm currently editing. However, below that is a section where I can type. So what I'm going to do is type a colon, not a semicolon, but a colon, and then WQ. That means write and then quit. And that escapes me out of Vehm. And then if I do an L, which I have a custom terminal in my Mac, you guys don't have to worry about it. I simply have aliased L to ls-al. So that would be list all in a long format, and that's simply something I do for convenience because I do this quite often. It's not terribly important. Again, it's not the end of the world, but while we're here, let's go ahead and run this. Now, chmod is a change modification. So we're going to be modifying a file, and here there is a +x, so plus executable to the particular file. And just so that you guys see that, it is now red, which should be standard to all bash terminals, as well as you see all of these X's that are suddenly here. So this is something we'll get into in another video, but just for now, so that you guys understand what's going on, there are 3 pairs of read, which is what the R is, write, which is the W, and then execute. So the first pair of 3 is for the current user. The second pair of 3 is for the current user's group. And the third pair of 3 is for everyone. So currently, I can read, write, and execute this test.sh file. Anybody in my group can read and execute it, as well as everyone that gets access to this computer can read and execute this file. So I'll go ahead and tell it current working directory / test and do a tab completion, and it runs hello world. Very simple, very stupid, very worthless. And now I'm going to remove it because I don't care about its existence. But what I am going to do is I'm going to hop into a folder structure real quick that will show you some of the power that using Vehm can be. This is one of the reasons why I like it a lot. So currently we're in a directory where I am learning Ruby. I'm teaching myself how to use it. And so let's just go ahead and Vehm the second file in this, or let's just go ahead and do the first file. Do array.rb. None of you need to know what's going on with Ruby. It's not really that important. But here's some fun stuff. So inside of my Ruby, or not Ruby, inside of my Vehm RC, I've created aliased commands. Just like in Bash, I can alias any type of key combination to something that I find more usable for that particular command. One of these such commands is tn, which is short for tab new. So I'll go ahead and show you the full command. And again, I can use tab completion when I'm looking at a file that's inside the current working directory. So here we have tab new and the cmd test.rb. And so now I have opened this cmtest, so command test.rb file, but I also still have the array.rb file open. As well as before, I can do a key combination into nerd tree to see all the various files that exist. And as you can see at the bottom, there are 2 hidden files called array.rb.swap and .commandtest.rb.swap. So something to keep in mind here is even on a Mac, file associations are not important. They're not like Windows. Now yes, in both Mac, Linux, and your base Unix, you can create file associations, and Adobe will automatically associate itself with PDFs. You know, there are certain things that have been built into these operating systems to allow it to be much more user-friendly, so that the extension actually does tell the computer something. But for decades, that was not the case. None of this meant anything to the computer. It was simply a file name. And so now it is becoming more along the line of file-associated things. However, at the end of the day, you can still get away in terminals at least, where the association doesn't matter. And let me show you just how that works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write and quit, but I'm going to change the name. So I'm going to change this to array test. And that's it. I'm not going to do anything else. And then I have to go ahead and quit out of here. Now, since I don't want to make any changes, I can just do :quit. However, a fun little thing in the Vehm and this is by default, is you can do an exclamation point. So for kicks and giggles, I'll go ahead and go into insert mode, and I'll just put in a bunch of stuff. Absolutely worthless, right? I don't want to save any of those changes. So I'm going to do an exclamation point after my quit. And so now I'm going to cat the cmd test. And as you can see, all the gobbledygook that I put there no longer exists. Now, where's my array test? So here we have array test. It is not executable at the moment. So we'll go ahead and do a chmod plus x. So plus executable to that array test. And now it is. And here to prove that it doesn't matter what the file type is, I'm going to go ahead and run this. And it did exactly what it was supposed to do. And just to prove that, I will do array.rb, and it's the same output. So I hope you guys really understand that it really doesn't matter what it's named. The only thing that matters is that it in fact is a file and it does have content. Now, one of the reasons why it was capable of doing that is because at the top of the file you will see this # exclamation point /usr /bin /env space Ruby. What that means, and that's something that you saw similarly in the script, the test.sh that we wrote at the beginning of the video. And all this is a shebang, so the hashtag exclamation point is referred to as a shebang. Don't ask me, I don't know where it came from. And then is a folder directory. So root of the file system, the universal resources, or universal system resources is what USR stands for, /bin or binary, and /evaluate, ENV, space Ruby. So this is telling it to evaluate as a Ruby script. Likewise with the bash script that was written earlier that just did an echo hello world, that did a shebang /bin /bash, which basically just sent it to the bash interpreter, and bash interpreted it for itself and did exactly what it needed to do. So one of the things to understand about these terminal editors, yes, there is a holy war between those who like Vehm and those who like Emacs. I'm personally learning Vehm. I think it is rather interesting. I think it's very useful. And there's a number of different things that you can do. So one of the things I'll show you, and keep in mind this is in terminal mode, or normal mode, my bad. So I just deleted that entire thing. And I did that with a keyboard command. And there's an entire line gone with a keyboard command. And there's a bunch of these different tricks that you can do inside of normal mode. There's one, if you do Shift A, which takes you to the end of that line and puts you in insert mode. It is the append. And so now I can do this. And of course, I'm not going to keep any of these changes. I'm going to throw them all away. And just to show you what happens if you make changes and then you try to close it, is it kicks back and says, nope, I need you to either write this or override it. So I'm going to override all the changes that I made and get rid of it. But something to keep in mind here is the idea behind these things, and the reason why they're still valid 30 and 40 years plus after they've been created is simply because once you put in the time to learn them, once you understand what's going on with these text editors and how to use them, you cultivate your mind around it. One of the things, and of course I can't prove this, I can't show it to you right now, but one of the things that these text editors are supposed to allow you to do, and of course I'm hearing this from 20 and 30-year veterans in the industry, is that it gives you the ability to type as fluidly as you think. So you can append, you can jump, you can create code or text. I'm trying to learn how to use this as a note-taking application. And honestly, in that endeavor, one of the things we'll be touching on later is cron jobs. That will be one of the next videos that are coming up, in addition to scripting, bash scripting. But the idea is that these terminal editors, when you put in terminal editors, when you put in the time, you really get used to it, and you really don't have to think about what you're doing. You can just do it. Your fingers just fly. You have no need of the mouse. You'll never use it. You'll never have any need to take your fingers off the home row. And that's the point. If you never have to leave the keyboard, and you can edit every file that you need, you can create new code, or as a system administrator, someone who's hosting, administering servers that are hosting Ruby on Rails applications or HTML applications. If you can go in and edit these things in a DevOps environment through an SSH terminal, which in most cases, especially with the Linux and the Unix machines that you'll have access to that will be running these types of applications, that's all you're going to get anyway. If you can do that and make the changes necessary, change a configuration file as quickly as your mind can think of it, then if you're looking to go into these particular arenas to do work or anything similar to it, it really does pay to invest, because otherwise you're going to end up using a program called rsync, which uses things like SSH is one of the protocols that it uses to transfer files back and forth between two machines. So what I typically do is I will SSH into a machine and then find the file I'm looking for and then use rsync over SSH to transfer that file back to my computer, because I know my folder structure a lot better than I know somebody else's computer that I'm trying to administer. But that becomes really clunky if you have to use something like Sublime Text or Atom to edit a file, because then you have to transfer the file over to your machine, open up that GUI application, make the edit, and then transfer that file back to the original machine and ensure that it's just more steps, because you're going to have to ensure that you did it properly, that it transferred right, saved all of your stuff, and that can just get a little hairy after a while. So the idea of taking the time to learn something like this is very useful if you're going to be in one of these environments, if you're having to deal with any of these things. And of course, you may never get to the point, and I may never get to the point, to where literally these programs, these terminal programs allow you, or us, shall I say, to type and to create code as quickly as we can think. But at the same time, you'll always have a terminal in a Unix environment. Everything runs on that terminal. So if you're already doing yourself a favor and taking the time to learn the Unix environment and learn the terminal, take a little bit extra time and learn something more than Nano. Because quite honestly, I just taught you, in the first minute of this video, I taught you everything that Nano has to offer. Yes, it technically has some copy and paste functions. Yes, you can use the mouse and various different things. But the reality is, it's not that great. It's not necessarily going to do everything that you want to do. It's not going to have the tabs that I showed you to have multiple files. It's just not going to do any of the interesting things that you need. Speaking of interesting things, one of the things that I just remembered that I have Vehm set up to do is this. So again, it's a mini map. It's over here on the right. It works, and it works really well. It's just kind of one of those fun features because I know some of you are used to Sublime Text and things similar to it, and so why not? You know, see what this thing has to offer. It's not that big of a deal. And while we're at it, let me show you some parts of my Vehm RC. So it's back in my home directory. It is a hidden file, and hopefully I can learn how to type it. So here's the Vehm RC. Yes, this is something that I have stolen from somebody else off GitHub. If you guys want it, let me know. I'll send you to it. But at the same time, it's just one of the. I'm simply showing this to you so that you get the idea of how these things work, what's going on here. Now, I have edited this and added things to it, removed some things away. One of the things you'll notice right here under mappings, there's a key called a leader key. And just so that you understand what that means, the leader key is something like Control or Alt or Command or Windows key, Meta key, whatever you're comfortable calling it. But in this case, it's something specific to Vehm, and it's something that I have mapped to my comma. So let's scroll down here to, where is it? Yes. No. So here's where I remap things to the tab remappings, simply so that I could move. So we have NT, where I create a new tab. We have TK, where I move to the next tab, or TJ, where I move to a previous tab, or TH, where I move to the first, and TL, where I move to the last. So if I want to have like 6 different tabs, that's how I would move through them. I can also create, with this, I can create blank tabs, or I can create new files. Blank tabs or new files, they're just empty buffers, where I can put in the buffer and then name it wherever I want, rename it. But going back to the idea of leader, this is where the nerd tree is set. So with nerd tree toggle, I do a comma K, and it brings up nerd tree. I do a comma K, and it goes away. Otherwise, to do that, I would have to type in nerd tree toggle. And that's just no fun. That takes a while. I'm lazy. I want to do things as quickly and simply as possible. And one of the ways to do that is to simply make a shortcut. So keyboard binding that makes things faster is always better than having to sit there and type out a full command. Otherwise, like with the tab remappings, for example, I would have to go through and type out :tab new every time I wanted to use it. As opposed to now I have a keyboard binding. As long as I'm in normal mode, I can tab through it. It's perfectly fine. It makes life a lot easier. So I hope this showed you some things. I hope it gave you an idea and an understanding of what these things are capable of. They are capable of doing so much more than what I've shown you. This is literally barely scratching the surface. One of the things that you've probably noticed is it does have syntax highlighting. So you can have syntax highlighting for any language that you can find, or you can just create your own. And that's one of the great things about these text editors in terminals is you can go through and create your own. With Nano, there is text highlighting as well, And that is something that I've gone through, found, and enabled in different things. And I've even gone through so far as to customize it to fit me personally. And it's not terribly difficult. Any of this stuff is easily within reach of a quick Google search. And there's a number of different things out there. Remember, industry professionals use these tools on a daily basis. This is something that people that have been in this career, in this industry for 20, 30 plus years have been using. And they love it. Now, yeah, maybe it's antiquated. Maybe it's dated. Or maybe it's worth actually putting the legwork to invest in yourself to reap the rewards of that time bonus. It goes back to the same idea that Tyler and I spoke of in some of our talks, where we were talking about building scripts and what that limited time bonus gets you back in the long run, and how much more work can you get done when you can do things faster than if you sat down and had to do it the long way every time. Now, the first thing I would suggest on your way to learning Vehm, and if you guys want a full tutorial where I go through and do this and show you guys what's going on, that's fine. Just hit me up. I will do it. However, I do think that this Vehm Tutor, any operating system that has Vehm installed on it, or that you install Vehm onto, will have this. I've tested this in FreeBSD. I've tested this in Linux, many different distros in Linux, and it's obviously on Mac OS, so it works. And literally what it does is it hops you into Vehm, and then, or an instance of Vehm, and it's a particular file that is saved. And then you simply spend 25-30 minutes to read through it. I would suggest, and this is one of the things that I myself am doing, to get more comfortable with it, make it less of a thought process, something that I don't have to think about as much. I will go through and read it one chapter at a time. And then every time I open this up, I'll come back to it, go over the previous chapters I've already done by completing the tasks that are in here, and then going on and reading another section. So be it lesson 1.3 or whatever. And it's just one of those things. Take a little bit of time, and you will learn by doing how to do this. And so with time and with effort comes experience. And obviously, I cannot type and speak at the same time, but you see what's going on. You see exactly what I'm doing. And then simply when you're done with it every time, you can either save it to a completely different location, or you can just do quit, ! And the next time you come back into Vehm Tutor, it would be just like you never went into it before. So as you can see, section 1.3 has all of those screw-ups again. And so this is something I would highly suggest that you guys do. Go through it. If you think that Vehm was cool, if you like some of the things that I showed you, which yes, they're all part of GUIs, but have you ever seen a terminal with that type of functionality before? I hadn't when I saw this, and that's one of the things that just kind of gravitated me toward it, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. I really want to learn this. I think it's going to be worthwhile to do because I live in the terminal quite a bit. And so if I can not have to load up Atom for every little text file that I need to make an edit to, and if this really does have the potential of being as quick as thought file editing, is it not worth investing in myself to learn how to do it and to develop it? Because it is a skill. But again, this is up to you. I can highly suggest it. You guys let me know if you have any questions. I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the like button. If you didn't, you know what to do. And we will see you guys again some other time. Have a good one and keep on writing code.